You read the title, you saw the thumbnail. This is Rengoku vs the Hashira. There's a video from Kizilla Pro. I hope I'm not mispronouncing that. So shout out to him and go sub to him. To make some things clear, this is going to be a Hashira with all the amps at the end of the series. This video is going to be split into 4 sections, scaling Rengoku versus the weakest Hashira, middle tier Hashira, and then the strongest Hashira. I just made a video scaling Rengoku in depth, so I'm just going to summarize. Rengoku should scale to a full power Akaza, because Rengoku almost speed blitzes Akaza with almost a peak level of compass. To clarify, Rengoku versus the 3 weakest Hashira are going to be Tengen, Shinobu, and Mitsuri. This is a whole video on Rengoku vs Tengen, so just know Rengoku clears as fraud. Rengoku vs Shinobu isn't really any closer, as at the highest you get Shinobu relative to base Akaza, because she's weaker than Kano, she's weaker than Inosuke, is up to the holding back Doma, and Inosuke is up to 13th form Tanjiro. I obviously do not think Inosuke is the strongest 13th form Tanjiro, but it's a really good feat to get Inosuke at the very least Akaza level. But Shinobu is under Kana, who's under Inosuke. I also did a whole video scaling Shinobu, so go see that to know why I don't think she's speed blitzing or something like that. Rengoku's also gave me one-shotting Shinobu, and this is the main issue because if Rengoku gets pretty much any deep cut, Shinobu's just gonna die. Rengoku vs Mitsuri is kinda closer, as you can scale to Akaza definitively. She related to the base overnight, she related to Mark Gyu. Watch my Gyu vs Rengoku video, or Gyu vs Nemi. It's not my Gyu, it's only low and related to Akaza. So the same would apply to Mitsuri. Even worse, as base overnight is stronger than Mitsuri. Mitsuri's range would be a really big issue though, but I can see Rengoku getting around that and winning. Or just speed blitzing with night form or something like that. Or without it. So Rengoku probably beats all these people low diff. Cover the middle 3 Hashira. This is just gonna include Gyu and Obana. Sorry to keep breaking this video up and doing a shameless plug, but I just made a video about Rengoku vs Gyu. Same scaling would apply to base Obana. It was freaking relative to 13th form Tanjiro while blind. You could just argue that Gyu could do that as well. So Rengoku wins low diff. But Mark Obernai is a lot closer though. I see Mark Obernai winning, mainly because of him outpacing a first strike move stronger than Akaza. Not saying Mark Obernai is going to outpace Akaza, because Akaza's compass. But Mark Gyu scales higher, when Rengoku scales to a full power Akaza at best. Mark Obernai's attack should be doing more damage and he should be faster. And again, because he can clash the moves on. This is even mentioning See-Through World, which if you give him the full thing, it just doesn't make this close, because his reaction speed will be too good. We also don't know how long this lasted, because Obernai gets knocked out with the rest of the Hashira right after. So don't want to see any people saying that his See-Through World only lasts a couple seconds. Mark Obernai wins high diff. Cover Rengoku vs strongest Hashira. This part is going to be Rengoku vs Michiro, Tsunemi, and Gyoma. See-Through is going to be outpacing Rengoku. I know everyone's going to say him dodging long circle Koshiba's attacks is travel speed, which it is, but we can still get Michiro to Akaza's level in speed, even in the Swordsmith Village arc. Michiro in the Swordsmith Village arc should be related to Akaza or on his level because of his feat of perception blitzing Gyoko. Gyoko should be related to Zohakuten. This is because we say base Tanjiro dodge Zohakuten's dragon, Zohakuten's dragons. If base Michiro is easily stronger than base Tanjiro through Tanjiro's glazing, and Michiro will be able to cut Tanjiro's head, but Tanjiro can't, and just weave around time. So this makes Gyoko relative to Zohakuten because if a base Tanjiro can dodge Zohakuten, yeah, he's weaker than base Michiro, he's weaker than base Gyoko. I am not saying that Gyoko was stronger than Zohakuten, just at the relative. So it doesn't make any sense for Zohakuten to be able to perception blitz Gyoko, and Mark Michiro is able to. If you think Akaza can perception blitz Gyoko, then he's Akaza level. If you think Doma can, then he's Doma level. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that Swordsmith Village Arc Michiro is Doma level, so we'll just put him at Akaza level. So Swordsmith Village Arc Michiro should be able to fight Rengoku. But I still think this version Michiro loses to Rengoku. But if we give him See-Through World, which would be a blitz level amp to his reaction speed, I can see an argument for hypothetical See-Through World Swordsmith Village arc Michiro beating Rengoku. Michiro then goes to the Hashira training arc. He'd obviously stay stronger than Tanjiro after the training, since he was stronger before the training. Tanjiro is left at the 4 power Akaza, and it's a debate whether or not he's beating Rengoku. So a Mark Michiro would be stronger than Rengoku, or at the very worst, relative. Michiro, with See-Through World, would easily avoid all of Rengoku's attacks. If Michiro can react to 6 long circle Koshibu forms without getting blitzed, yes, it was 6 forms. We know this because we see Michiro save Tsunemi from Kokoshibu's 10th form. Then, in the next chapter, we see Kokoshibu uses his 16th form. This is supported by Gyumi asking how many forms he has, and Kokoshibu is always picking up one by one in breathing forms. Some people will say this is true, then why doesn't Michiro dodge Kokoshibu's 14th form? The simple counter argument is that Michiro's whole plan was to close in on Kokoshibu, and he knew he was going to die because of blood loss. So his whole plan was to close in on Kokoshibu no matter what happened. Kokoshibu can blitz Akaza. Rengoku's attacks would probably be moving in slow motion compared to long circle Kokoshibu's attacks. This is supported by Tanjiro saying Akaza's attacks look like they're in slow motion, yet he still gets hit by Akaza's final form. So the same should apply to Michiro with See-Through World with long circle Kokoshibu. so Rengoku's attacks wouldn't be hitting Michiro. I don't see a way Rengoku can counter Michiro's 7th form either, and Michiro would counter Rengoku's 9th form with 7th form. So Michiro is winning this mid-diff, but probably low-diff. Rengoku vs Tsunemi should be obvious. Tsunemi is relative to 4-power base Kokushibu. You can blitz Akaza, but even if you don't use that, Kokushibu is skill above Doma, is above Akaza, and Tsunemi is subject to Kokushibu, so it should be obvious that Tsunemi wins low-diff. Rengoku vs Gyome is obvious. Gyome has stated a bunch of times to be the strongest Hashira, so that alone should put an end to this debate. Plus, Gyome outpacing base Kokushibu. Yes, he's holding back, but Gyome is also in base, and it's still an impressive feat. Then, when Gyome gets marked, you see him be relative to a 4-power Kokushibu when he goes all out. Plus, him not getting hit by a first strike Muzan a single time, he's stronger than Akaza. People call this in almost every Demon Slayer video, we'll just say this here. Muzan didn't blitz any of the Hashira. He uses a technique. This is heavily implied by the loud noise, ground shaking, and the Hashira getting blasted away. You don't even know what happened. So for all we know, Goku could come in and blast the Hashira away. Gyome wins this, no diff. So hopefully it's for the hope, show Rengoku skills harder than you think. If I were to rank the Hashira from weakest to strongest, it would go Tengen, Shinobu, Mitsuri, Giyu, Rengoku, Obernai, Michiro, Tsunemi, and Gyome. Like, sub, peace.